So everyone is buzzing about AI agents, right? They're being pitched as this huge leap beyond chatbots. We're talking about automating not just simple chats, but really complex decisions. And yeah, it sounds amazing. But there's a pretty big catch that you're probably not hearing in those slick sales demos.
Okay, let's just get right to the heart of it. Picture this. The cost to run one of these agents can be 10 times higher for every single interaction compared to a chatbot. So the question is obvious, right? How on earth could that ever be a good deal? Well, stick with me, because the answer is not what you'd expect.
All right, before we go any deeper, we have to get this one thing crystal clear. It's the absolute core of the whole discussion. A chatbot, it's like a puppet. It follows a script that you write. It's automating a conversation. But an agent? Well, an agent thinks. It has a reasoning loop. It automates decisions. And that single difference, that's everything. It's the thing that will either supercharge your team or, completely wreck your budget.
Okay, so let's really dig into this whole 10x cost thing. It's the number that stops everyone in their tracks, and for a good reason. But here's the deal. Just looking at that per interaction cost, it's kind of like buying a car based only on the monthly payment, and completely ignoring the cost of insurance, gas, and all the maintenance. You're missing the bigger picture.
So the real question isn't which one's better. That's the wrong way to look at it. The real question is, can that huge jump in cost actually somehow save you money in the long run, like across your whole operation? And the answer to that, well, it all comes down to how valuable the problem is that you're trying to solve. Right? That subscription fee you see on the website? Think of that as just the price of the ticket to get into the stadium. It's not the cost of playing the game. The real story, the hidden costs, well, that starts when you look at the total cost of ownership. And we've got a perfect, real-world example from an insurance company that decided to take the plunge.
So this insurance company, they were paying around $800 a month for their chatbot. Pretty standard. Then they decided to try out an agent to handle claims processing. The platform fee immediately jumped to $2,400 a month. Okay, a bit of a jump, but maybe manageable, right? Well, that was just the tip of the iceberg. The real costs were hiding inside their own systems.
First up, bam, a one-time hit, $15,000. And you're probably asking, for what? Well, their old CRM system just couldn't keep up. The agent needed data in real time, right now, to make decisions. Their old chatbot, it was perfectly happy with data that was like 6 hours old. But for an agent to autonomously approve a claim, it needs live info. And getting that meant a major and expensive API overhaul.
And it didn't stop there. Then came another 22 grand. This wasn't for software. This was just pure engineering hours. The IT team had to spend 3 solid weeks totally rebuilding their data pipelines just to feed this new agent the live policy info it needed to do its job. And here's the crazy part. All of this money was spent before the agent had processed a single solitary claim. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because we can see why it's so much more expensive, down to the nitty-gritty. Let's just take a simple task. Returning a jacket. A chatbot follows a simple, straight line. Retrieve return policy. Done. Maybe 150 tokens. Costs basically nothing. But the agent thinks. It goes into this reasoning loop. It's checking the policy, sure, but then it's scanning the customer's route for drop-off locations, comparing shipping costs. It's doing like 7 different things at once, and that just explodes the token count, all the way to 8,400. The cost jumps from a fraction of a cent to over 8 cents for one return.
And now look what happens when you scale that up. Let's say you're doing 10,000 of these returns a month. The chatbot's cost for all that work? A measly $20. The agent, doing the exact same number of returns? $840. I mean, you see that huge gap, and your first thought is probably, no way, this thing is a financial black hole. But that's not the whole story.
And this is the punchline. This is the whole point. That agent, the one that cost 42 times more in pure compute fees, was actually cheaper. Why? Because it could solve much harder problems on its own. That meant way fewer escalations to your expensive human support team. In fact, it wiped out $33,000 in downstream labor costs that the simple chatbot was causing. So when you do the math, they were saving over $28,000 every single month.
But look, the costs aren't just about dollars and cents. When you give an AI real autonomy, you open up a whole new can of worms. We're talking about operational headaches and risks that you don't even think about with a simple scripted chatbot. This is about what happens when you actually let go of the steering wheel.
This quote, this just says it all. It's from a SaaS company that used an agent to handle refunds. The agent followed the rules perfectly, to the letter, and it approved thousands of dollars in refunds that technically were valid.
The problem? It didn't know about the shadow rules. The unwritten stuff that any experienced employee just knows, like how to spot a competitor who's just fishing for info by signing up and asking for a refund. The agent was logical, sure, but it had zero organizational intuition. And it's not just about making bad decisions. Sometimes the problem is that making the right decision just takes too long. We all expect instant answers online, right? A chatbot can reset your password in about a second. But an agent doing a more complex ID verification, that took almost 9 seconds. In the world of user experience, that is an eternity. And what's wild is that, at first, customer satisfaction scores actually went down for the smarter agent because people just saw the delay and thought it was broken.
So what was the fix? It's pretty genius, actually. They didn't make the agent faster. They just made the wait transparent. They started showing the user exactly what the agent was doing. Okay, analyzing your driver's license now. Verified. Now cross-checking your account details. And just like that, perception completely flipped. The wait time was exactly the same, but because people could see the work being done, it felt productive instead of broken.
And then you have the sheer unpredictability of it all. See, when a chatbot breaks, it breaks in ways you expect. Agents, not so much. This one story is just, wow. An agent for a service company started basically making up appointment times. It would see that the 2 p.m. slot was taken, and its logic would go, well, 2:15 p.m. is close, I'll offer that. It was trying to be helpful, but it had no concept that technicians work in 1-hour blocks. A scripted chatbot would never, ever fail in such a creative way.
And the numbers totally back this up. When you look across a bunch of different deployments, chatbots have a failure rate of less than 1%. Pretty reliable. But completely unrestricted agents, they were failing over 6% of the time. So, as you can see, the secret sauce is finding that middle ground. You have to constrain the agent, put some guardrails on its autonomy. That gets the failure rate down to around 2%, which, for many companies, is an acceptable trade-off for all the extra power you're getting. So, we've talked about money and we've talked about risk. But this new tech doesn't just change your software, it fundamentally changes your people. This idea that AI agents are just going to eliminate jobs, it's a massive oversimplification. What they really do is create entirely new and much more complex jobs that you have to be ready to fill. Just look at this comparison right here. On one side, you have a chatbot trainer. They're managing conversation flows, editing scripts. It's a known quantity. But on the other side, an agent supervisor. They're managing cognitive architecture and analyzing reasoning trajectories. I mean, you're not just an editor anymore. You're part psychologist, part systems engineer. And just look at that salary difference. It more than doubles. That's a real permanent cost you're adding to your payroll. And this next insight from a financial services company is just brilliant. Their old chatbot had super simple, rigid rules. If a transaction looked weird, it just escalated it, no exceptions. But when they brought in a smarter agent with more power, it started approving things it shouldn't have, like changing the destination for a wire transfer, which is a massive fraud risk. It turns out the chatbot's rigidity, its dumbness, was actually a crucial security feature.
Okay, so we've looked at the hidden costs, the wild risks, and the huge potential benefits. So what's the final verdict? Agent or chatbot? Well, it's not about picking a winner. The strategic reality for right now and for the foreseeable future is that you're probably going to need both. The future isn't one or the other, it's hybrid. So the big question then becomes, okay, when do I use which one? And this right here is your practical playbook. Use a chatbot for things that need to be precise and repeatable. Think regulatory language or brand messaging. And for all those high-volume simple tasks like resetting a password, these are basically solved problems. You save the agents for the tricky stuff where you need flexibility and real reasoning, like explaining a complicated insurance policy or figuring out a complex logistics problem. That's where their high cost actually pays off and creates real value.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway from all of this. The technology for AI agents, it's here. It works. It's genuinely powerful. But whether or not it will succeed for you has surprisingly little to do with the tech itself. It's about everything else. Your data infrastructure, your team skills, your internal processes. So the final question you should be asking isn't, is this AI ready for us? It's, is our organization truly ready for it?